Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Person of Interest. So in this episode, we have John and, obviously the team getting a new number, and basically John's investigating. It's like a locksmith guy who is basically planting a bomb, and John stops him, but comes to find out he's setting up the bomb because he was told by a voice, on a phone that's like, oh, I took your wife and you need to do this or she dies. And it turns out, because at first I was like, oh, they said like, oh, don't you recognize his voice? I was like, who is it? Like in my idiotic opinion, I was like, oh, is it Nathan? Are we trying to say like Nathan's still alive? Or I was like, oh, are we saying that Samaritan's taken over his voice? It's like, no, we have come across his voice in the series before. It's, I don't remember the episode very clearly. They kind of brought it up, but basically there's that 911 operator lady, and I think it was her son that was being threatened. That basically she had to cover up a crime. They brought it up in the episode talking about the fact is that he strapped a bomb to him. So like, I vaguely remember, I just don't remember all the details to the episode. It came back to me, I was like, oh, okay. And this guy's very meticulous because he set up that whole, like, this episode was, it's one of those episodes I love because it's so many twists and turns you don't see coming. And it's just like, first, the whole, like, John and those other police are there. And basically, he got a team together to go track, because they figured him and Harold had tracked down the lady's location, like where she was being held. Turns out to be a trap. There were bombs that went off. I don't know if there were actually any cop casualties. A lot of them got messed up, but I don't think anyone died. But that was one. And then you come to find out that everything in this episode was a whole setup, because basically it was to get all the cops distracted with all these different bomb threats around, so that there was I forgot what they're called, but basically they're kind of like they're members of a mob family that were basically locked up in prison. They're getting out. And I was like, okay, there's the case that Fosco's working on. I was like, okay, they're busting him out of here, isn't it? It's like, no, like, because that in itself was a twist in my opinion, because it seemed like, oh, he's like, it's like, oh, he's like, oh, this gun he has all these bodies on it, and it's just like, he's such an innocent, like, cab driver or something, and it's just like, oh, man, he's being framed. I was like, oh, Samaritans framing him up, and then Fosco pointed all that stuff out, fingerprints and everything, and then he dropped the fake accent and just got all, like, maniacal looking in his face, like, wow, like, this show does a good job of that, because it's like you've seen it once, you've seen it twice, and then you're kind of like, it's just like, it never crosses your mind, oh, it's going to happen again. It's happened twice, because Elias was the best example of like, oh, he was a school teacher, and it turns out, oh, he's actually like head of a big mob organization. And then you have with Dominic, because Dominic seemed like, I was like, oh, he's just like a minion. It's like, nope, Dominic's the one who runs the whole like gig. So it's like they always twist you like that. But I was like, okay, he's a bad guy. I was like, that was a nice twist. I was like, okay, so they're trying to break him out. It's like, no, actually they're not, because it turns out he actually works for The Voice. And the reason why The Voice is got these guys coming after him is because they want him dead, because all the bodies that this guy has on him are because he killed all of the Voice. He killed he killed this guy that's locked up, the guy that Fusco locked up. He cleaned up all of the Voice's like loose ends. Basically, anyone that's ever worked for him in the past, this guy killed him. That's most, at least the 4 bodies he's being charged with by Fusco. That's what that was about. And it's like, oh man, it just gets more and more elaborate, because he's like, I know the Voice's real identity. The reason why he's coming after me is, I kept it as leverage just in case I ever needed to come after him, because like I knew, eventually I'd become a loose end, and that's what he is, and that's what this whole situation was about. At first I was worried. I was like, okay, obviously you see like the way he was kind of darting his eyes over, I was like, I was like, that officer that happened to randomly beat her, I was like, yeah, it's totally him, isn't it? But it's like, oh no, I was like, this whole situation is a little suspicious. Fusco, don't leave that guy with this officer. He's totally a bad guy, and he's about to creep the door open. It's like, mother, and then bam, John shot. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But then you get the final twist when you end up finding out that the number they got, the guy that they were protecting this whole time, the one that's like, oh, my wife was threatened, turns out she's a freaking actress that was paid for it, that this guy is the Voice. Dude is super intelligent to set this whole situation up. Basically playing victim, like he was literally there in the room with John, and he set up like, that had to be set up ahead of time, like getting like, he basically called himself while he was right there in front of John. So he probably had that set up as like an automatic thing. It's like, dude is really smart. And I was just like, oh my, like, and to play it so well, I kept thinking something was a little suspicious the way he just like I don't know why. It's just I guess like I just didn't buy into it 100%. Just I thought something was a little weird. Just like but what about my wife? What about my wife? Don't worry, I'll protect your wife. I promise I'll protect. I know it's like I know I'm probably a douchebag for that. It's like yeah, he's concerned for his wife. He's allowed to do that. He's a husband in a very unfortunate situation. But it's like I don't know. It just seemed a little suspicious. But still, I didn't see that turn coming. But I did like the fact of the matter is it was it's kind of a stalemate situation. Harold caught up to him, and Elias pulled a gun on him because he was about to pull a gun on him. Harold's like, okay, stalemate. Let's just walk away, call this a draw. And it's like, we'll meet again. I was like, oh, God, he's going to become a future problem. The moment that happened, I was so sure Elias was going to come up and kill him. And I was like, oh, but like, here he goes. He's about to get away. It's like, okay, I guess we're going to have to come across him again. It's like, I mean, he is going to be a very hard enemy to defeat because he is pretty smart. And then Elias is like, I think that's far enough. Puts the switch. Bam! I was like, oh, you did kill him. Because I was like, okay, why don't we just kill him? But because Harold was bringing up, like, you're a very bad person. You manipulate and extort a lot of people. You push people to do your dirty work for you. You know, because this, you know, even though he was faking it this time, there were multiple people he pushed into situations like this. And it's just like, man, he is a very bad dude. And it's just like, Harold's like, you can't be allowed to roam free. And he was like, basically, you have to be arrested. I was like, oh, I thought you were kind of like, at that moment, I thought that's when Elias was like, when Elias showed up, I was like, okay, that's the moment he's going to kill him because Harold's already said all he said. But then Harold kind of looked at him and Elias was like, oh, come on, Harold, you brought me along here. You kind of already knew I was going to do something to him, something like this, so don't kind of act all surprised. And then at the end of it, it's kind of like, it makes sense. Like, Harold didn't rebuttal anything because he knew on some level Elias was going to do something like that. And he had to accept it because he knew, like, someone like this had to be taken care of. Like, this wasn't someone that could be allowed to roam free. I mean, for all we know, maybe he's still alive. I don't know. I feel like Elias and them made sure to stick around to make sure that body burned or something. I don't know. Like, you never know. Because I guess because of like with this potentially being in the final season, it kind of makes sense to like, here's a potential future antagonist, and nope, he's dealt with. Because it's like he would have been a thorn in their side. He would have come back in a big way, and it's just like, oh, here's that guy again. But it'd be kind of interesting because it's like one of those. Well, I was about to say like it'd be one of those interesting situations because they know what he looks like, but it probably would have been hard to track him down. But then again, it's kind of like you ended up finding out who Elias was, but he's stuck around. So not because Elias was a necessary evil. Even though he's kind of ahead of the mob, he kind of kept things in order. It's kind of, because John and them kind of accepted it as kind of like the devil you know type of situation. The devil you know is much better than the devil you don't know. So that was kind of like that whole situation. I love twists and turns like that. Like that's one of my favorite aspects to crime dramas is like that mystery element of like, oh, here's the twist. Here's the other twist. What I really like in this episode also is that we had Fusco. Obviously there was still animosity between him and John, basically being like, because John was like, okay, can you watch my witness for you? He's like, I have no right to kind of ask you for backup, but look after my witness for him. He's like, I got other cases to deal with. I want to get some other cop to handle it. It's like he's asking you to do a favor. Because I was thinking, going back, my theory was, okay, Samaritan's putting this guy in this, like, cell. And it's like, okay, he's going to be like, he is actually a killer. Like, either he's being planted there because he is a killer, which, I still wasn't 100% set on. Or he's just an innocent bystander that's being put in that situation by Samaritan so that he could go over there and kill the lockpick guy. That's what I was thinking. But it's like a lockpick guy set the whole situation up. Getting himself arrested, doing everything. It was just mind-blowingly awesome. But, there was still that animosity between them. But after that little bit of a gunfight, that's all it really takes, apparently. It's like a really good, long gunfight against, like, some mobsters to kind of bring a friendship back together. But the real thing is, I was like, man, tell Fusco the truth. And it's like, boom, at the very end, we have John telling him, he's like, it's time you learn the truth. And, Harold was kind of like, are you sure about this, John? Bringing him in, and John's like, even the precinct's not safe. He's like at the very least, that was at least one safe place for Fusco, but since it got hit like that, it's like, there's nowhere safe. That's what I was kind of saying in the beginning, is at very least tell him the truth so that Fusco can be well prepared for it. But it's like, we don't really get 100% of his reaction about finding out the truth, but we do. We saw John kind of beginnings of it. Like, there's a system out there that keeps an eye that makes, records everything you do and say, and just like, okay. And on the other side of the episode, we had Root dealing with a situation that was kind of brought to her attention by the machine. Essentially, there was a guy. Basically, the number she was given was essentially a guy who was possibly helping spread Samaritan's malware kind of around, I think, or at least spreading the system around a little bit more. But when she showed up there, someone got shot and they ended up tracking down. And who is it? Good old Shaw. And it's just like that whole situation. I didn't know how to interpret that. I was like, okay, like we had that whole beginning thing, which at the beginning I was like, okay, what is this leading to? And then Shaw comes out the back. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, what are we doing? Like here, like, is this going to lead? Like, I didn't know where that was going to lead to, but it just, it's because it had to show like, okay, Shaw's here. And because of that, that's what kind of confused me when she popped up later on. I was like, didn't we just see you possibly in Mexico? And now you're here in New York. But then I was like, okay, we don't really get a good time frame of from when that happened to like when it kind of cuts to here in New York. I was like, we don't know how long had passed. She said I broke out a week ago. So any point in time in there, she could have gotten, she could have been in New York for like a couple days. Like that could have been like what we saw in Mexico. It could have been like a couple days ago or something like that. So that was kind of interesting. And I was just, because I was under the impression, okay, it's like, no, we're going to find out that she's not really Shaw. She's one of Samaritan's agents disguised as Shaw or something like that. I don't know. It just kind of popped in my mind. It's like, oh, or like she's kind of, and then I was like, oh no, what's going to happen is we find out that the Shaw that's in, like this is a fake Shaw here, but it's because she's under Samaritan's control, and the Shaw we saw in Mexico is her inside of her mind. That's her in her mind trying to think like, oh, like I'm out and free, but it's like, no, I'm still trapped inside my mind while I'm being controlled by Samaritan. Not physical control, but like they brainwashed her, so that was kind of her subconscious trying to fight back. It's like, oh, I'm off, getting back to my friends, my team, but it's like, nope, here you are. But it's like, no, the more it developed, because it was like, Root's like, okay, we could go back to the team, and she's like, no, they put me through all 7,000 of those simulations, and I can't distinguish what's reality and what's not anymore, and I'm afraid I'm gonna put y'all in danger. She's like, I've killed you guys multiple times. Obviously not Root, because she even pointed that out to Root, which is, it's got to touch Root a little bit. I'm like, oh, like I mean, it sucks you kill the rest of our friends, but you never killed me. That's a little sweet. And that's what always like surprised me, because I didn't know Shaw had that thing for Root. I always, kind of figured like, okay, Root has a thing for her, but I never knew it was like reciprocated to that level. Like Shaw loves her. Like that was so surprising to me. It's not just like infatuation. She loves her. They're in love with each other. And it was just basically Shaw was like, I'm not going to like endanger you guys because you mean a lot to me. And she points the gun. She's like, I'll just do what I've done every time. Like I was never able to kill you, but I can just kill myself. Whether this is reality or not, maybe I am safe and I am away from Samaritan, but I can't take that chance. And everyone's like, okay, you do that. Puts a gun like below her. She's like, what do you do? Charles like, what are you doing? She's like, no, we can do this to get, you do that and I'm gonna do this because, you can't live in this situation. She's like, well, I can't live without you. And it's just like, that's some Romeo and Juliet shit right there. And it's just, it's like, fucking Root, you fight for your woman, Root. You fight to keep her around. It's like you fought so hard to get your girl back, and you finally got her back. It's just like, oh. And then at the very end, we do see that Shaw is back. The whole team is together. It's like, yo, they're standing as one. They're reunited on good footing. We got Shaw back. Busco's been brought into it, and all five of them are just standing there. It's just like, yeah, team machine. The machine is back together at full strength, especially now that Fusco's in on it. It's just like, But overall, like a really good episode. I like I said, love the twists and turns. Cannot wait to see what today's episode, because I'm recording this like Tuesday morning. So can't wait to see where we go next episode. Like I said, we're running through this like super fast. Like I said, it's kind of a love-hate thing. It's like, oh, I love that we're getting like 2 episodes a week. I mean, except for like last week when we got 3 episodes. But still, I like that. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like you're rushing this because it's like you're trying to, I feel like CBS is just trying to get it out of the way so they can just like, oh, and now bring like other stuff that's coming back for another season or, new series, whatnot. But nevertheless, I'm going to enjoy this ride. I can't wait to see where we go from here, how it all is going to end, because I have no idea. I just hope, it sounds like it's going to have a sad ending. I just hope it doesn't, but it most likely will. But we won't know till we get there, so. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.